Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Alright, so we've got Horus Heresy and the sub-games. So I didn't get a chance to release a video yesterday due to, life and so on. So we're going to combine the Horus Heresy and some of the sub-game stuff together. So we'll have a look at Warcry, some new squat models, and I think some Space Marine stuff as well. And we'll look at all that at the end. But to begin with, we're going to look at something which I've been waiting for an extremely long time, a dream that I've always had, which is to, as more of a collection, to have an army solely made up of Mark VI Beaky Boys, I've always wanted that, paint them in, classic Dark Angel colors, so the dark green, but using like the insignias and the sort of the flavor of Heresy and Rogue Trader sort of design, mixed with that third, fourth edition sort of Dark Angel look, and sort of do a that kind of look with weathering and all of those sorts of things. But yeah, with that dark green instead of the black. So I'm really happy that these are all coming out, and it looks like I've seen some photos of people. One of the guys on Instagram that does a lot of Heresy stuff. I can't remember his name now, but everyone who likes Heresy, I think, probably follows him. He does a lot of conversions of minis and so on. And he had a comparison of the Mark VI, the new Mark VI Marine next to some Death Guard models. So you can tell that it's actually a bit taller and more in scale with the current ranges of Space Marines, which is really, really nice because, you could do a beaky army already with the original Tactical Squad Space Marine box, but if you had enough of the heads and so on, you could do it. But having new fresh box of all beakies that are slightly taller and more in scale is great. And we're going to have a look at some nice, interesting little, I guess, upgrade boxes as well that are going to come with this. So I think it's really, really awesome that they're doing this and allowing people to dig into some of this, because there's a huge portion of this community that have been around for a while and have a really, I guess, endearing or spot in their heart for some of these early marks of armor and so on. And to give people a chance to enjoy that is great. So I won't go too much more into that because we've got a lot to get through today. So that's just my little waffling speech to begin. So let's take a look at this and see what they're going to give us. So the only disclaimer I will say here is that, as probably many are aware, this starter box for the Horus Heresy is a big one, and the price tag is going to be huge, especially if you're living in Australia or New Zealand. It's going to be a very, very big price tag on it. We'll take a look at that at the end when we come down the article, but it is something that's a little bit massive, but you do get a lot in the box, so there is that. But yeah, it's kind of a tricky one. I don't know about that, but we'll talk about it later. So let's see what they say. So revealed the new box set for Warhammer, the Horus Heresy at Warhammer Fest. So we've pretty much all seen this. They've already showed the image of what's in the box, but now we get to see it. So this is the image on the front. We've got our Mark VI Beaky in front and center, which is really nice, and the Spartan in the background, plus a whole host of the other sorts of characters that they've shown off already, some new, some old. That's all really nice. And then we come down to the beakies here. We've already gone through this, so I won't relive the past video. If you want to see my little review, I guess, or look at these, it's only a few videos back when they showed them. You can see what I say about them there. But basically, obviously, I love these, so I'm on the beaky camp, and I can't wait to paint some. Yeah, so I'll be doing all this type of, I guess, heavy metal approach to weathering and that kind of grimdark look, where it's still pretty clean, but you're getting these sort of nice little moments of color and staining and so on. This is the sort of level of, I guess, paint job that I'll be looking at doing for mine, and I'll definitely be doing some videos on the channel that anyone else is interested in sort of doing retro Space Marine armies just for fun. Hopefully I'll be able to do some conversion and just do each one individually. So there'll be a few videos on stuff like that coming, in the future. It won't be a long, yet, but I'll definitely be doing some. So that's really cool. But anyway, I won't go on too much. I've also talked about the fact that Heavy Metal or at least the painting team that does Horus Heresy, have sort of taken on board of that Heavy Metal style to sort of upgrade the look. And I think it's a very positive one. This photograph's much better than the sort of more grimdark, I guess, weathered kind of look that you get in a lot of the older models, especially from Forge World. And it's still a really great look, but it doesn't photograph as well. This is much cleaner and easier to see the details. And for, selling products, this is a better way to go. And I think just touches on that history more of Games Workshop and this particular, especially for Horus Heresy, considering it's trying to take you back to an earlier stage in their development and so on in the game. I think that's a really nice nod to keep it in the paint jobs in that style. But we still do get some of this nice, modern weathering and so on, included, which is cool. So anyway, and now we'll see these. So these were we saw the furthest away image, I think. I don't know whether I think they showed this one as a close-up, but I don't know whether they showed this one. I can't remember. But yeah, these are all really, really cool, right? If you're into Heresy, I mean, these are great models. Much more full, larger sort of figures, great for individual painting. There's a lot of really cool little design elements here. I love the combination of these sort of little grills in the leg armor here with some nice little ornamentation on it. Just adding a bit of flourish of design into what can look with some of these older armor types a little bit boxy and a little bit simplistic, as we're going to see in a second with another model that they're releasing, which is new but of obviously an old design, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I like all this over the top ornamentation that's going on here, all the studs and everything, because that gives you that old school Warhammer 40k, or in this case 30k kind of feeling, because that's what a lot of the old drawings had. Tons of little random details. If you look at all those old drawings, they're just jam packed full of detail the whole way through those black and white images. There's just so much going on in them, and to bring some of that across into these new models is I think a really nice touch. I think that's definitely something you want to see in these. So yeah, really fun, right? They're all really cool. And then we come to this. So spoiler alert, I'm not a huge fan of the old Redemptor here. Sorry, the Contemptor, sorry. It's not my favorite design. I'm not a huge fan of the retro 1950s space robot kind of aesthetic that some of the Warhammer 40k and 30k universe uses. And it's nice, that retro fantasy kind of look. It does work on some things, but in the case of this old boy, I think... I'm not a huge fan of it. I've got a feeling, I've heard other people talk about this online, that possibly the reason why he's done so plainly here is because they're probably going to give you upgrade kits to do the different chapters, which would be fine. But I think the Forge World resin ones that are more detailed and are more like Legion specific, like the Dark Angel one and so on, with the big crest on it and all of that, are much, much cooler. They're about as cool as they get for this type of design, whereas when it's very plain, it doesn't really feel like anything. It sort of feels very just like a random... It doesn't really feel 40k. Like, this looks like this could be any robot in any sci-fi world. For some reason, it just doesn't have enough going on for me to... There's no purity seals, there's nothing. But I guess maybe in 30k they didn't... I don't know, that wasn't a thing as much. I don't know. But... just some sort of flourish of detail on this would be nice in the basic kit. But as I said, maybe they're looking to do upgrade sprues and that sort of thing for it as well. So we don't know. They're only showing us a limited amount of images and so on here. So we'll see what happens in the future. But it's still nice. Like, if you like this sort of thing, it's still cool. But it's definitely not my flavor. I love the newer sort of dreadnoughts and that sort of thing. I like them. Although I will say that the what's the big one? Everyone was using it in 40k armies back in 8th edition. Anyway, the really big dreadnought that Forge World makes, with the really cool guns. That one's a nice looking one of that older sort of retro design style. But yeah, this one not so much. But the Spartan's cool. So we're seeing the Spartan now, some nice close up images, and that's really fun. Like, as a modeling project, I don't know how good it is in game. These kind of big vehicles tend to suffer a bit. They're very hard to balance, very hard to make viable as a choice in a list, especially for a competitive one. I'm not sure how well they do in old school 40k rules like what Heresy's using, but maybe they are. Maybe they're really good. I don't know. But back in the old days, big vehicles like this were always a problem. They're hard. They're a hard unit to really justify. Often there are better choices, right? But yeah, it looks great. Like, as a modeling project, it's awesome. You got all the interior. You can do fun little things in there. Do some glowing OSL and so on for the lighting and all that sort of thing. Always a fun thing to paint. And I love the old school tracks. These are definitely preferable to the 40k ones. I like this type of idea. It's really cool, and you can see they've gone to town with a bit of weathering and dirt and mud. That's all really good stuff. Again, a nice balance of the grim dark and the cleaner heavy metal style being blended here, which I think think is, you know, really clean. Like you look at this image, it's really nice to look at. You know, it's very pleasing to the eye, and that's something you always want to consider when you're doing this type of product photography, I guess. So yeah, awesome. And then we've got, I think these Terminators are all old, so we won't spend too long on those. As I said, we've got a lot to go through. So we'll come down here. We've got the book. That's great. And now this is where they talk about the box. So they've indicated that it's going to be less than £200 or $300 US. Now, yeah, I mean, you do get 40 Space Marines in there. You do get the Spartan and the characters and the Terminators. Like, there's a lot going on in this box. So, you know, that's great. I think it says there's 40 in there, isn't there? There's 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah, there should be about 40 of them in there. And you know, really, if you were to buy this, that's most of an army, right? I'm pretty sure that's like a good portion of an army, or it could be, if you're playing smaller games, it might be enough. But I think Heresy tends to play slightly larger point values, don't they? Is it over 2,000 they like to play? Maybe not. But you know, that's plenty. That's a huge force. If you were to paint it all in the one cut, like the one Legion, you've got everything really that you need. There's not a lot of extras that you're going to need on top of that. So I guess that's nice, you know, that gets you started, and then you can sort of add to it. But yeah, I'm not sure how well this will sell or whether people will really want that. I did think about it too myself, but I really only want these beakies. It depends on how much good of value it is. It depends on how much they're going to sell the as we're going to look in a second, the 20 beakies on their own, and what price point that is, because that might make this, you know, good value. If that happens to be a higher price as well, then this might actually be a good box to buy. But again, you got that problem of having so many unpainted models sitting in your backlog, and getting through it is a hard thing, especially with Marines. Marines can be easy to paint, or you can make them one of the hardest things to paint in the world. They can go both ways, and having them all sitting there unpainted is a daunting thing. So yeah, we'll see about this price, but hopefully it's reasonable. I'm hoping for Australia, New Zealand. I'm imagining somewhere in the vicinity of 600. I think that's what it's going to be. Probably closer to 800 for New Zealand. Yeah, it's going to be a big ask for people in my part of the world to get into Heresy via that box set, but I don't really think that's where you'd want to start with Heresy anyway. I think just buying a few small kits and mucking around with it and trying to get into it, because it is a different rule set. It doesn't play anything like modern 40k or AOS or any of those games. They're much more streamlined. They've got a lot of rules in them, but the base mechanics of the game is much more streamlined. You know, Heresy, you know, you've got initiative. You've got way more stats on your stat line that are being compared and contrasted against the person you're playing against, their units. There's a lot more going on. You know, the vehicles have hull points and arcs, fire arcs. You've got templates, you've got scatter, you know, dice and all the rest of it. It's a much more classic style of wargaming, which I actually like. There's a lot of really lovely elements to old school 40k, which I wish was still in the modern version of 40k. Like, I do like it, but I feel like there's a couple little ideas that are in this older version that should have stayed. One of the main ones would, I'll just say it, one of the main ones would be initiative. I feel like the loss of the initiative stat on stat lines is a huge backtrack. You're losing value for that unit. You know, you're paying all these points. The initiative value is really important. So if you don't know what that means, it's going to establish who's going first in combat. And right now, basically, you know, there's not as much value in charging. I mean, there is, but I don't know. It's a hard one, right? Because it works really well. The way they're doing combat now works really well in modern 40k. But I don't know. There's something about having, you know, you charging into, let's say, I don't know, like a Demon Prince or something like that, and you're a guardsman or a Tau, and you get to go first because you charged. Doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, I don't think a guardsman will ever get the drop on a Demon Prince, no matter how well he charges. I just don't feel like that's very thematic. I like the idea of initiative, because it means that Demon Prince, no matter whether you charge him or not, he's always going first, because they tended to have high initiative values. So your sort of standard human was around 3. You know, your Space Marines 4. A lot of the elder stuff would be 5, and big characters and fast moving, you know, really deadly characters might be 6. You know, and so on, and that kind of thing. And that gave differentiation, you know. So for instance, orcs would have, you know, I think it was initiative 4 as well. So they would be going at the speed of a Space Marine, and so they'll be a lot more deadly to something like a guardsman, which they should be. You know, there's those kinds of little elements in there that make some of these units now much scarier if you know that they're always going first, no matter whether you charge them or not. And that's a much more daunting prospect to throw in your units. You've got to make more decisions. So there's a lot more tactical kind of play going on for the movement of your troops. You can't just rely on, okay, I'm just going to charge and whatever. And there's just more going on there. And there's a little rules like that in this game that I really like. So I don't know. We'll see how it all goes, but I don't know what everyone else thinks about that. But that's just one of those little old man foibles that carries across as you go through this hobby. You have those rules that you really like that you wish were still in the game. All right, so let's move on, because I'm already 15 minutes in. Let's get into this. So we've now got the individual boxes. So they're going to give you your Heretic and Astartes volumes, which will have, I would imagine, all of the rules you need to make your armies with. That's what it looks like here. First the two Legions Astartes army books. Yep, so it's going to have everything inside for either the traders or the loyalists, which is really nice. And then you'll move on to having your individual box sets. So we've got the 20-man Mark 6, but they're also going to rebox the older marks as well. So this is Mark 3 and Mark 4, which is really nice. So if you want to continue, if you've got these already and you want to continue, that's really cool too. So yeah, I really like that. I think that's a nice thing that GW are doing to help support those that are already collecting Heresy and that sort of thing, to keep their collections going, which is good. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of price point this has, because I don't really know. Yeah, that'll judge whether people buy that big box or not. Will depend on this price point here, because this could be pricey, 20 of them in a box, especially if they're slightly larger like that. We're looking at definitely, if you're in Australia, well over $100 to have this box. So yeah, I don't know, interesting times, right? And then we've got a few, I think these are re-released characters. I'm pretty sure they've been around before, so we won't take too long on those. And then let's move on. So we've got the upgrade sprue. So this is cool. I had a long look at these because this is great. This reminds me of the old days. We've got like a lot of old school nods here to a lot of weapon designs and so on. This is all really cool. I love this. So you're going to be able to swap in and out, probably magnetize all these and have all the different weapon options. That's great. We've got the heavy bolter, and the most classic and iconic of the old school designs is the missile launcher, this old derpy thing, and they're sticking to it. They're holding their guns and they've made a new version of it. That's great. I like that it's there, and I'll definitely be using it. This always makes me laugh when I look at it, but it's just a cool little part of history that's still in the game, and I think that's really nice. That's a very, very cool little nod to an older version of this game, and to all us oldies that remember it. That's really cool. And to the new, this is a whole fresh design for you, and you'll either like it or hate it. That's great too. So we've also got some plasma and multi-melters and so on. They're all really cool. Everything about this is great. And obviously the shoulder-mounted las cannon, that's awesome as well. Everything about these upgrade sprues is great, and I can imagine this is actually going to give a lot more option for anyone doing any sort of conversion for Space Marines. Really, there's a lot of really cool things you could do here for 40k as well. So yeah, all in all, pretty positive. Hopefully the prices again aren't super high on this, but only time will tell, I guess. And then finally we've got a tank. So this big boy. So I don't know if this has been shown before, but I certainly haven't seen it. So I think the chassis has been around for a while, but it's the weapon, the turret and the weapons I think are different. So this is a particular version. So the Kratos, what is it called? A Kratos something. Kratos heavy tank or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's cool, right? It's Kratos battle cannon. Okay, and is it called a Kratos tank? I don't know. I guess a Kratos tank. But yeah, it looks great, right? It's a really cool looking vehicle. Again, we've got some really nice weathering on the tracks. Nice little, streaks of grime coming down the side of the hull there. I love this big, massive turret. It looks cool. Like, this is a cool tank, right? I don't know how well it plays in game, but it's a fun looking tank and definitely tempting just to do for a painting project. It's a pretty cool thing. So I don't know how much this will be. It looks pretty big, so it's probably going to be expensive. Again, if you're in this side of the world, then it's definitely going to be that way. But still, it's really cool that they're supporting all of this. I think this is even though it's an older style game, it's kind of injecting a lot of fresh life into Space Marines. Not that they need that kind of support, but it just diversifies a little bit more, and suggests a lot of things for hobby related projects, I guess, which many of us, at least at one stage in our lives, would have engaged in some sort of Space Marine painting project, right? Everyone paints one at least once in their life, and having this many varieties of them is fun. That's cool. It'd be nice if some of the other factions get a bit of that love too, but they're going to support Heresy now. It's going to be their third game. I'm pretty sure this is all going into the stores, which means that stockists will get it as well, and much more accessible, which means eventually they've got to do the other factions that are in the Heresy. So we will see some support for other factions and a wider range of miniatures, hopefully in plastic. So that's really cool. That's not just Space Marine stuff. We're going to see Chaos Demon related models. We're going to see Mechanicus models. We're going to see a lot of maybe sort of cultists and all kinds of different models that can be then used in many other armies and so on. That's really great. So yeah, all in all, pretty fun. So now we're going to move on to the sub game section of all these reveals, and we've got the kill team. So in this, I think it shows us the two sides. We've got cultists. So this is the kill team Morok. So this is their next box, and a little bit different. There's a lot more models in this. So someone that plays kill team will have to tell me, but this feels like a larger grouping of models, especially for the Space Marines that we're going to look at. I feel like that's a bit more than what they're meant to have. Is that right? I don't know. Like, that feels like this is like a full squad. Like, you're getting like a proper squad of cultists here. So you got like your leader. This is all great. I mean, everything about these guys are cool. A lot of good conversions we can do here. They are on Cadian bodies, which I'm kind of a bit sad about. I was hoping for a different legion for the cultists. I sort of get a bit bored of the Cadian thing. I know Cadians are cool and everything. Don't hate me, Imperial Guard players. I play Imperial Guard too, but I did back in the day. I would have liked to have seen like another Imperial Guard regiment used rather than Cadia, because aren't they in the modern lore? Hasn't Cadia already fallen? Hasn't it already gone? I don't think there's any Cadians left, is there? Or at least it's a Chaos world now. So I guess this makes sense, having cultists that were Cadians, I suppose. But this is a great looking cultist guy here, the big heavy. And we've got all the usual decorations that cultists get. So yeah, it's still nice. I'm glad that this exists, because it's going to help for people wanting to do armies of them and so on, because obviously it's a big box of models, so that's good. Yeah, all in all, pretty fun, pretty standard kind of designs. I definitely liked some of the cultist models that they've released for AOS, and the Slaves to Darkness stuff that'll be coming, which I think would easily be able to be used for 40k armies as well. So, sprinkling some of that in will help jazz these up and give a bit more fresh look for them. But it's still fun. that head's a little bit derpy there, but this guy's good. I like this grin. I like the attitude here. I actually like this blank armor plate here. That's really cool. That gives him a bit of a different look. Yeah, I don't mind all that. That's all pretty cool. So yeah, you can definitely. I love this. The riot shield. That's all good. Throwing the grenade. There's a few nice ones in here. A few nice little attitudes and looks that are quite cool. So that's great. That's good to see. And we've got this. So we've got this whole grouping of Phobos. I guess they're Phobos, aren't they? Space Marines here. The sort of the infiltrators. And yeah, it's interesting to see why there's so many of them in the unit. I don't know. I guess that balances out in Kill Team. I'm not quite sure. But look, there's some great models in here. Lots of good little variation of attitude. It's hard to do with Space Marines to give them all a unique look. There's some nice little helmets in here. I mean, we've got some pretty nice little accessories going on these. So yeah, again, this would be pretty tempting just to use for other stuff, right? Like the hand with the gas grenade going off, some of these purity seals, and some of the weapon designs and the extra ammo attached to them and so on, the magazines. We've got lots of scopes going on here. I mean, there's a ton of little cool extras here. Some of the heads are nice. This head's nice, the open one. I like this with the sort of different breather at the bottom. That's like a really cool helmet. I mean, yeah, there's some good little pieces in here that would be really nice to do for other things. So yeah, I guess more Space Marines. Like I said, I was just talking about that. So yeah, there's some more for the pile, I suppose. So yeah, it's going to have a huge base. It looks like, with a whole bunch of buildings there, most likely modular. yeah, a nice release for Kill Team. They're doing a lot of these, it looks like. So they're a bit like what they're doing for Warcry, I guess. So you're going to get a lot of these kinds of starter boxes. So yeah, pretty cool. It's not probably the most impactful one I've seen, but still pretty nice if you want these for your collection. So yeah, pretty cool. But what I really want to look at is what we're going to look at next, which is the squats. So they've done some squats for Necromunda. And these are great. This is more like classic Dwarves in Space. So the ones that we saw for the Leagues of Votann are sort of slightly bigger, more sort of, their stature's a little bit more elongated and a little bit more high tech. These really remind me more of like what squats, the old squats kind of thing, but with this new armor style. And these just look fun, right? They just make me laugh. I love the big hammers, the stub guns, and so on. The double wielding there. These helmets are great. I can see some really cool color schemes going on here. I'd probably do these helmets black. I like to do a lot of dark colors. But yeah, I love all the striping and so on the visors, down the visor and that sort of thing. Yeah, these are really cool, aren't they? Like just a good bit of fun for Dwarves in Space. So yeah, I can see it reminds me of Deep Rock Galactic, that computer game. Like all the little dwarves in that. Is that what it's called, Deep Rock Galactic? I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. Yeah, I've watched some people play that online and so on. And the dwarves in that are sort of super fun looking characters, and this kind of gives me those vibes a little bit, even though this is sort of more, I guess, high tech. But yeah, pretty cool, right? I like this, the open visor where we get to see the beard and so on. That's really great. And this more closed version here with this I guess auto gun or maybe a stub or something like that. Yeah, I like a lot of what's going on here, and you could do some fun color schemes on these. So who knows? I may do some of those on the channel at some point in the future. We'll see. But yeah, super cool, right? And the art as well. They're giving you the art, which is really important to show this. I'd love to see a little signature of the artist that did it, but that's another story. But still, really, really fun to have this kind of thing like in these articles, to see the art, to see how they're designing it, because these are really cool, very old school kind of design, these dwarves. But yeah, really fun, right? And I think we'll leave it on the Horns of Ashut, which is coming for Warcry. So we're going to be moving away from the 8 points, I guess, and they're going to expand on the areas that Warcry can be battled over. So we're doing that with what I'm assuming is going to eventually be, because these are humans, Chaos Dwarves. So at some point in the future, we're probably going to see Chaos Dwarves, but these are the Chaos Marauders or Warbands that are the human followers of Ashut, which is the Chaos Dwarf god. And, these are cool. This is a good I guess, entry into the whole design and aesthetic that go on with the Chaos Dwarves, which, if you don't know, has a lot of bull themes and all of that sort of thing. There's sort of like dwarf centaurs and so on from the old days. So I don't know how much of that theme they're going to carry across, but it does look like they're using a bit of it. We've got lots of bull-horned helmets and so on. It does look like they're getting into it and they're not holding back. So it'll be great to see what the actual Chaos Dwarves look like. We're going to see a character down here in a second, which is like pretty cool and gives us a good indication of the design aesthetic that those Chaos Dwarves might take. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to do them. It would be like really silly to release all this and then not do Chaos Dwarves. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm sure they're coming. There's so many hints at it, so much going on here that's pushing towards that end. And I guess Warcry gets to explore the area where they come from first, and then they'll release the Chaos Dwarves later. So we get a sort of lead in to what they're going to be. So yeah, all in all, like a good fun bunch of models. Again, great for any Chaos army that wants to do conversions and so on. We've got a flamethrower here. Yeah, really cool. But it's this that I think we're gonna leave on and talk about at the end here. What a great model. Yeah, he's a Centurion. So there's been Centurion Marshal. So there's been leaks that show these in the Slaves of Darkness book that's coming at the end of the year, and so you'll be able to use him in your Chaos armies, but also for Warcry. He looks great. It's a really nice, fresh, modern take on a Chaos Dwarf idea, even though he's not a Chaos Dwarf, but you can see where they're going to go with all of this, and it looks positive. It looks really good. I loved Chaos Dwarves back in the day. I like Dwarves with magic. I think that's cool. And yeah, if this is the sort of aesthetic they're going to go for, I think we're in for a pretty fun bunch of models whenever they decide to release them. And yeah, but this is a nice here you go in the meantime kind of release, right? And it's not a bad one either. This will be a great model to paint. I might end up painting this because this is pretty fun. There's a lot of interesting things you could do here on the flesh, you know, and on the horse body here, or the bull. I guess that's a horse body, not a bull. But yeah, there's heaps of really fun elements here. The horns here are great. I love these segmented horns. You can do a lot with that. Yeah, really fun, right? So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.